Alright, so today Bitcoin is kind of just trading sideways in the middle of a range. There's not too much to talk about when it does come to short-term price action, and that is why in today's video I wanted to go ahead and rehash my thesis for areas I believe Bitcoin is most likely to top out at, broken up into 4 different options that you can see on the screen right now, and we're going to jump into what I believe is most likely and what we're going to be wanting to watch out for to know when it is actually time to sell. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into this, starting off with number 1, the top is already in. Is the top potentially already in for Bitcoin? And I do have to say it is not impossible that the top is already in. The fact of the matter is that Bitcoin is forming what does look like Wyckoff distribution in this range, and we have already grabbed liquidity from these highs up here, which is where a lot of it was sitting. While my base case remains we are going to squeeze up past 74k to grab the rest of the liquidity before a final top would be possible. There is certainly the chance that the top is already in because the S&P has made a good high, and if that were to roll over, I have no reason to believe that Bitcoin would not follow. And let me go ahead and visualize some of what I just talked about. Right now I'm looking at CoinGlass's liquidation heat map. This is software that mathematically predicts where liquidity can be, so each software that shows liquidity zones will be a little bit different, but in general they are all saying the same thing, in which most of our liquidity was actually just sitting above these highs back here that we made on April 10th, and we have in fact already went ahead and grabbed that. So while yes, there is still more liquidity to the upside, and I do believe 75k is still the target, just on a liquidity basis it's no longer a guarantee that we're going to squeeze up higher if, like I was saying before, the S&P does in fact roll over here. But we don't have to worry about that quite yet because the stock market is not open, so there's no way for us to know if the S&P has a chance of rolling over until later on this week. So we will make sure to watch that closely on the channel in the following days and weeks to come. Outside of liquidity, the other thing I was talking about was a Wyckoff distribution formation. And what we can see here is a schematic that Wyckoff created to analyze supply and demand topping structures in markets. That does seem to play out pretty much every time you do have a topping structure that is not a blow off top. If you just look up Wyckoff schematics, you can find this website yourself and read through all of this. What I want to talk about today is the structural resemblance of the Wyckoff schematic compared to current price action. So what I have done is I went ahead and grabbed this image and put it into TradingView, and as you can see, price action is very similar. The only difference is that your phase B low happened later on and your phase B top did not actually make a higher high than our buying climax. But there is a case to be made. We are making distribution schematic number 2, and we do not need to grab liquidity higher before rolling over. Now you could actually argue that your sign of weakness in phase B was actually this low here, and that we have not actually reached this up thrust where we do grab that 74 to 75k level. So actually, even in this option 1, that could be a case where we pull this up to, let's say, 75k where that liquidity is sitting, and we might form a structure similar to that schematic where we eventually roll over later on this summer. And I do think this is a valid scenario to be looking out for, even though it is not currently my base case. So we can go ahead, let's remove option 1. We're going to be talking about option 2, which is Wyckoff UTAD. What does UTAD stand for? That is upthrust after distribution. It is essentially the same schematic we just looked at here, but with a deviation to the upside as seen as this UTAD. And once again, I have gone ahead and put the schematic into the TradingView chart here so we can look at it right next to Bitcoin. And we can see that the schematic looks very similar. And as before, if we are using the schematic, we could either say this low right here was your sign of weakness, or that this low down here is actually this low. And after thinking about it, it actually makes much more sense. We would still be in phase B right now. We still have an upthrust to the upside to grab 75k before rolling back into the range and then going for that bigger deviation. Where would this deviation land us? My guess would be anywhere from around 78k to $90,000. We would then have a final distribution at this level before rolling all the way back over into the range, and then getting back into that range is where you have confirmation that this was Wyckoff and it is time to get everything out of the markets. But not only that, you would probably have Pepe go into $50 billion market cap plus in this range here, along with other sentiment indicators that would tell you, hey, this new high we have on Bitcoin at around $80,000 to $90,000 is probably going to fail, and it is time to get out of the markets at the top and not wait any longer. So yeah, option number 2 says we definitely do make new highs. So whether we break it now, then come back down to then finally make that distribution up higher, or we just go for that distribution right now, and that is where your peak euphoria hits. This is not only a real possibility, but I believe it is a probability. I would not be surprised at all to see this option 2 actually play out here on the charts, but we are not trying to predict the future here. We are going to wait for price to reach certain levels, and then based on sentiment in the markets, what market caps altcoins and meme coins are getting to, along with news headlines, can be warning signs for the top to actually come in and to signal you to actually sell your positions. So that is option 2 of a Wyckoff distribution being formed right now. I do think either of those options are a real possibility, and we need to be watching out for if that were to play out. And the big question is, are we currently seeing these signs in the market? And my answer would actually be yes, but only kind of. If we go over to Pepe right now, we do see meme coins going absolutely parabolic, showing that there is retail euphoria in the market. So not only do you have something like Pepe going, but you also have something like Mogcoin making new all-time highs today. So certainly we are nearing those euphoria phases of the market, but my base case remains the fact that we do not have to worry right now, because Mogcoin, in my opinion, is not going to top at $500 million market cap. Pepe is not going to top around $5 billion market cap. Both of these coins, in my opinion, are still going to do another 10x from current price, and that is when we really need to be worrying. And that can happen very fast. Historically, when meme coins move, they move within a couple weeks. So if we were to get a deviation to the upside during this high here, you certainly could see those meme coins jump up thousands of % from current price, and that would be a telltale sign to get out of the markets. But I will say, outside of meme coins, your altcoin market does look really solid for a reaccumulation into a true altcoin season that happens alongside Bitcoin having its most violent and parabolic time in the cycle. And that is where we fractal a range similar to when we had the Grayscale ETF launch. You can see in here, this looked a lot like Wyckoff distribution, but we were able to break through the range, back test it, and continue up vertically. And I do believe that is possible here. We could easily see price come all the way up here to 6 figures for Bitcoin. And I guarantee you, when you do in fact break this 100K level, is when retail euphoria is going to go insane, and you're going to have big headlines that Bitcoin just reached 6 figures. And that certainly could be a catalyst for exit liquidity and a sign that we may actually swing fail 100K, come back down under, back test it as resistance, and then fall all the way back down, creating a semi blow off top swing failure of $100,000. And this certainly is very probable. I would not be surprised to see this at all. Another scenario we could have is that we fractal one of these ranges once again, and it actually does turn out to be Wyckoff distribution at this level, and we could see something similar to what we were talking about beforehand, just only up at that $100,000 level, which could drag out the euphoria in the markets all the way into election season, which makes a lot of sense to me. So that is option 3. I think that is a very likely scenario. And then option 4, this is what everybody is hoping for, and that is a true blow off top similar to what we had in 2017, where Bitcoin goes well past 6 figures into 150 to all the way up to $300,000. This cycle, which most likely would create generational wealth in pretty much all of your good altcoins and meme coins, that sort of thing, if you were able to sell the top, because this would be your .com bubble of crypto, where Bitcoin goes up into the tens of trillions of dollars in market cap before making a massive blow off top and cascading down into this recession or even depression that I have been predicting. So yeah, essentially these are the 4 most likely scenarios I do see for Bitcoin. If I were to bet just based off of current price action, I would say we either have the Wyckoff distribution schematic number 1, where we do deviate out to around $80,000 to $90,000 before following, or we go ahead and swing fail that $100,000 level so they can get that headlines to be used as exit liquidity, and maybe we do have a Wyckoff distribution at that higher level that lasts us out into early fall so they can have the markets looking good for election season. And if you do have any questions about anything I talked here today, make sure to join my Discord. Link is in the description down below. And with that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.